Hello, everyone. Sorry, I hit go live and then I remembered something I wanted to check here. Try to make this a little bit bigger so I can see it better. Where's the zoom? There it is. Let's see if that makes it too big. I guess that's okay. That makes the chat much easier to read. Doesn't mean I still won't read it wrong like I did the other day. So before we get going, I always come on early anyway, but part of the reason I do this is just to remind everyone that since YouTube keeps cutting me off like every other show, it seems, I always have a backup stream ready to go set to private that I've linked to in the description box. If I suddenly get cut off, and I will let you know in chat, go into the second stream, and just keep in mind that you may have to refresh a couple of times because I got to set it to public. And other than that, I just got to set it to public, publish, and then go live. So I got like 3 buttons I got to click once I get to that second stream. So it's probably several clicks before I get to starting it. And I always hope and pray I don't have to go that route because it's just more of a hassle and the show gets cut in half and I hate that. But if I've already covered all my topics, I will just let you know, not going to go to the second stream. So unfortunately, I don't get to do my closing, but that's just life as long as I get through my main topics. So, and then another thing I wanted to say because I keep getting these, and first Patrick kept getting them, then I started getting them. And this is text message, and it's just another scam, which I'm sure it was when I first saw it. But whenever I get a text message or an email that I'm pretty sure is a scam, but just to make sure, I will always go look it up online. So this one is a fairly new one. I don't know how long ago it started, several months ago. And I'm sure some of you have dealt with it, and it's having to do with tolls. And they'll claim they're from the Department of Transportation or something like that. And then tell you owe, and if you don't take care of it, you're gonna have to pay fines and blah blah blah, and they, scare the crud out of you. It's all a scam. If you actually did, the thing is, the closest toll bridge to us is the Tacoma Narrows, and we haven't been across the Tacoma Narrows in a very long time. So I'm like, and we would have paid our toll, but it's just like so dumb. It's so irritating, but people fall for that stuff a lot. And some of that stuff can be convincing. You'll get stuff from PayPal, quote unquote PayPal, or stuff from an antivirus program. This will come a lot in email. But if you look at the email address, just look at the email address it's being sent from, and it becomes pretty clear. It's usually got somebody's name because they're not smart enough, or they think you're not smart enough to pay attention. But it's usually for some ungodly amount of money, like $600 or more for something you didn't buy. And the whole purpose is to get you to either click on a link or to call them so that they can scam you out of money. So delete and block. Just do that with your text messages, do that with your emails. Nobody's coming after you for something that you didn't buy or you didn't do. So I wanted to say that because one came in, another one, I got 2 today so far. And one came in just before I was getting ready to go live. It's like, well, I might as well make sure people know about that scam in case they don't already. Just making sure. So we got a couple minutes yet. People already chatting. It's kind of nice having this. It makes my video screen smaller, which I don't really care so much if how well I can see myself. I just like being able to see the picture so I know, how centered my picture is, or, if I'm still going, and I got to be able to see the screen to see if I'm still live, which sometimes that doesn't help either. So anyway, yeah, so we'll be talking about, well, let me go ahead and just do my greeting, because by the time I do my greeting, it will most definitely be time to start. So hello, everyone. Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. Thank you all for coming in. So I just thought it would be fun today instead of doing a Q&A, especially since I didn't have a whole lot of questions to cover, and I can do that next week if I want to. Um, I thought it'd be fun to talk about other uses for whole grains besides grinding up for making flours to make breads. Because obviously, there's that. But some people don't consider the fact that there's more uses for those whole grains that you either are considering putting up in food storage or already have in food storage. It doesn't have to be just for grinding into flour. And part of the reason I wanted to cover this is because some people might start stocking up on grains, but are saving money for a grain mill, especially if you're getting my grain mill, which is nearly doubled in price from when I bought it back in 2013 or however long it was ago that I bought it. Maybe it wasn't that far back, but 2015, it was quite a number of years ago, at least 11 years ago, I'd say. And 10 or 11 years. And anyway, you might be saving up, but then something happens and you're never able to buy that grain mill. But now you have all these whole grains, and now what are you going to do? You can use just a standard blender actually to powder the grains up, but they're never going to get as fine unless maybe you have a Vitamix with I think they have a special attachment or whatever. And I know some people use that to grind their flour or grind their grains into flour, but um, it's just not, like a standard blender like what I use because I'm not interested in a Vitamix since I already have a really nice grain mill. Uh, it's just never going to get it as fine. It just, it's going to be pretty coarse. But that can be a good thing. And here's the reason why. So I have, which I think I linked to in the description. I might have just linked to the short. I have. But one of the things I like to do is take whatever grains, it doesn't matter. It can be rice, it can be barley, it can be wheat, it can be a mix, whatever you want to do. And you can make your own cream of wheat, cream of white rice type cereal. It is like one of the easiest things to do by simply throwing it in your blender. And the texture you get from just a standard blender is pretty similar to the texture you're going to get with your if you were to go down and buy some cream of wheat or cream of rice cereal, and you cook it up very similarly. And anyway, in the instructions, I never remember the exact amount of water per cereal, but it is in that short. And in that short, I also put in the description box of that short, like a basic recipe and all that. So, yeah, it's just really easy. And then you could add your butter, usually a little bit of salt, add some butter and brown sugar or maple syrup or whatever you like to throw in there. And again, it can be any grain, just like quinoa. We're not huge fans of quinoa here, so that's not one we use, but barley, hulled barley, I personally think is better. Oh, I already said barley, I meant buckwheat. Well, either one of those is preferable that they're hulled. But you can, at least with the buckwheat, even if you don't hull it, the hulls are edible and they're not going to hurt you. So I just prefer to have them hulled. So I get from Azure Standard, I get my whole grains, and I now know to get the hulled barley, the hulled buckwheat, and anyway, any blend of any of those that you want. If you just want white rice for a cream of rice cereal, it works really great. Then you can also, another option for a breakfast, you can also cook up your whole grains like your barley, your wheat, your buckwheat, and make a more coarse cereal or more, kind of like you would oatmeal or rice. And you can eat that like cereal, like a hot cereal or even a cold cereal. And then you can just pour milk over it or something and whatever you want. That's what Patrick likes to do with leftover white rice, is he likes to eat it like a cold cereal and just puts milk and then a blend of cinnamon sugar on it. But then there's you can also use, like, barley is a great one to add to soups but you can do this with any of your whole grains, just using them whole. Throw them into your soups and cook them with your, especially anything that's going to cook for a while anyway. And I don't always think to do that. I keep trying to remember to add like some barley because I have whole barley to some of my soups and I always forget. But I remember as a kid, mom used to buy like, I think it was the beef barley Campbell soup, and that was one of my very favorites. Loved that. Well, you can do the same thing just by making your beef soup and throwing some barley in there. You just got to make sure you cook it long enough and don't put too much in there because you don't, unless you want it to be mostly barley. But also, any of your whole grains can be used to make a stuffing for chicken or turkey or duck if you like that. I make a wild rice stuffing. So I keep a wild rice blend on hand. And wild rice would be similar in cooking time, like brown rice or um, your whole wheat, your whole barley, and so on. The cooking time is going to be longer than white rice. But yeah, you can make a great stuffing out of any of that. You can also make side dishes that maybe you incorporate vegetables into, or maybe a stir fry type thing. You can use these things in casseroles. And what else did I write down? Oh, you could even use it as a replacement for white rice for making like a fried rice. Let's see. Or, taking the cooked whole grains and sprinkling them on a salad. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, I haven't some of the stuff I haven't done yet. I just some ideas I was kind of looking into some different ideas and I'm like, "Oh, these sound so good." But adding to your burritos. So every so often I'll use like leftover beans from when I make the Tar Heel beans and cornbread and leftover beef from maybe either some that I put up canned in a canned form or dehydrated form, and then mix those together with some cheese and some Mexican type spices like, chili powder, cumin, and so on, and then make burritos out of that. But you can do a similar idea using all that if you want, but also using your whole grains, your cooked whole grains, and making a burrito or some other kind of a wrap out of that. So the thing is, I knew this was going to be fairly short, but I was hoping a lot of you may come up with some other ideas. I have a couple more ideas, by the way. But the thing about this is just realizing that there's so many more uses for your whole grains when you're storing them than just grinding up for flour. And so, I mean, the same can be said for popcorn. You might store the popcorn because you guys like to pop the popcorn and eat it with butter and salt and whatever other spices you want to add to it. But that popcorn can also be ground up into a meal for making cornbread. So it's also multi-purpose. And but one of the other ideas I wrote down here that I almost forgot, let's see, is uh what do I got here? Using in chicken scratch. So if you have chickens, I mean, I'll use whole grains, whatever non-GMO, uh, organic whole grains I can get from Azure Standard for a good price, and a lot of times make my own chicken scratch out of that, or your own chicken feed, or grits. You're right, Deb. I was just thinking of grits this morning. I was like, "Man, I really want grits today," but today is one of my fast days. So I stick to a schedule because that really helps me to, fast on Wednesdays and on Sundays. And I'm like, "Man, today's Wednesday." It's like it's funny because I look forward to fasting and not eating because of how good it makes me feel. But then I start thinking of all those yummy foods I really want. Like Patrick just toasted up some butter croissant rolls I made the other day. And it smells like butter croissant rolls in here, toasted butter croissant rolls. Smells really good. Anyway, I was thinking about the buttery grits. Yummy. So, but you know what? That gives me something to look forward to tomorrow. But yes, that's something you can do with your popcorn as well. And, and grits, I know, just like with any of this, you can do it like I prefer it with butter and salt. Some people may prefer a sweeter taste, like adding maple syrup or some cinnamon sugar or something. I don't know if people do that. I'm assuming some do though. I've just always only had grits with butter and salt. Yeah, that's pretty much it as far as that goes. But anyway, yeah, and I was thinking again the casserole idea. I could see a lot of times when we do casseroles, most of us are doing some kind of pasta. Well, you could use those whole grains as a pasta replacement. So maybe you're making basically like a tuna noodle casserole. Like in my case, I'm usually using either steelhead or salmon instead of tuna. And consider using cooked whole grains. I think barley in particular would be a really good one for that. And make your casserole with the barley instead of using the pasta if you want. Or even if you're gluten free, using your white rice instead of the pasta. Like I say, I haven't tried it, but years ago, I haven't done this in a long time. I made up my own. I need to do this again. I made up sort of a casserole kind of thing. I think I was in my late 20s or 30s, where I would take chicken, like pieces of chicken, and I'd put the uncooked rice in the bottom of the pan, put the water in there, top it with pieces of chicken, and then, I'd put whatever spices or bouillon or something in there for flavoring, and then put cheese on top of that, and then bake that, and that was really good. So, it's kind of a similar idea, though in that case, like what I was talking about, I think it would be better to use cooked rice before that way you could more easily mix in your white sauce that you've preferably made from scratch since it's super easy. And yeah, so any kind of casserole, I could see those going very good in to replace pasta if you wanted to. Maybe you're wanting to get more of a whole grain with lots, all that goodness that's in there. Oh, cheese sounds like that would be a good one on your grits too. I'm surprised I haven't thought to try that. I'm one that would be more apt to like slice a wedge of cheese, warm it up a little bit, and then eat that on the side. The cheddar cheese. Oh, so good. I was just doing that yesterday. Yummy. But yeah, so if anyone in the chat, or even if you're watching this on replay, has any other really great ideas that you would like to throw out there that you can use whole grains for, so that people can realize that there's more uses for whole grains if you're really wanting to start stocking up on 25 or 50-pound bags, and maybe you're not in a position where you can grind it yourself. Lots of great options. Lots of great options. And I know there's more out there than what I just listed. So I know I thought of something else. Now, what was I somebody sent me a video on making um like Rice Krispies. And I realized why what I was doing wasn't working to make Rice Krispies. And I would assume the a very same kind of thing could be done with any of your whole grains, is basically you parboil it or partially cook the grains so they're not fully cooked. Then you strain them out. You throw them in a hot skillet with either salt or sand, because I think that's how they do it in India. The sand idea I don't really like, because you'd have to be certain you wouldn't want to be biting down on pieces of gritty sand, but salt would be a better idea. But anyway, you put that in a hot pan. I don't think, if I remember correctly, you're not using any oil. And that is what you use to heat it. So you're heating it and kind of swirling it around like you would with popcorn, and then the grains will start to puff and get a little toasty, but you got to work fast, and you got to hurry up and try to scoop them out and get them out of there. And then you put it like in a sieve, or like even like one of those mesh stainless steel strainers, and just try to get all that salt or sand out of there, and now you've got Rice Krispies. So I got to find that video somebody sent me where somebody was doing that. And I'm like, that is pretty cool. No wonder I couldn't get it right, because I had tried a few different ways of making like either a puffed rice or Rice Krispie, and it just wasn't working. But I would assume you could do the same with barley or whole wheat grains or anything like that. It'd be fun to try. So maybe throwing whole cooked grains into scrambled eggs. I do it with leftover rice all the time, but thinking wheat would be good too. I've never tried that. Interesting. I wonder how well that would do, like in a quiche or something for those who like quiche. I happen to like quiche. Patrick likes it, but he doesn't like it for dinner. And I never think to make it for breakfast. To me, quiche is a main dish. It's a dinner. To him, it's a breakfast. And I get why, because it's mostly egg and cheese and then whatever else you're throwing in there. I could see sting and nettle doing really well in a quiche. Anyway, but yeah, I wonder, like, throwing some of the cooked whole grains into something like that too. You're getting all kinds of good stuff in there. So, and of course, obviously, some of that stuff is for people who can have grains, but even if you're gluten free, a lot of these same ideas can be done with your white rice. And I can't remember, does brown rice have gluten in it? I don't remember. I'm sure somebody knows. I can't remember if I've looked that one up before. I don't think it does. I know buckwheat is gluten free. I love buckwheat. That's one of my favorite types of grains, gluten free grains. And so I do keep buckwheat flour on hand. So, not just so I can make stuff for people who are gluten free, but simply because I like buckwheat, and I might even still mix it with my other types of whole grains that are not gluten free, since we don't have to be gluten free. So yeah, I just thought it would be kind of fun to talk about that. Did I mention soups? I think I did, right? I mentioned, yeah, I did, because I was talking about the beef barley soup being one of my favorites when I was a kid. Another one, kind of off topic, another one I really liked. I wonder if anyone remembers this one. It's not it's not an old Campbell's soup, but it was one they came out with, gosh, I don't remember when. But the chat got quiet. Um, but it was like the sirloin burger soup. Does anybody remember that? There were like little hamburger patties in the soup that had been grilled. So they had the little grill marks on them. Those were really super good. I just watched Patrick sharpen a chainsaw. It was really great how he talked how he talked you through it. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, that was one he's been meaning to do for a while, and he does have one on sharpening a machete, and then I realized when I was looking through our videos, of course, this is on my main channel, he's got other videos on sharpening other things that I forgot about. I'm like, "Whoa," because some of them go way back. Let's see. Campbell's Homestyle soups. Yeah, they had back in the day, I think that was probably back before they put a bunch of garbage into them. At least I hope it was, 'cause mom was a pretty good cook with some things, but she wasn't. Dad was the one that did a lot of the cooking, baking type stuff, but mom didn't do a lot of making stuff from scratch, including soup. So we had a lot of Campbell soup on hand and things like that. But so there was a lot of stuff I had to teach myself. Mom was good at making some really good casseroles. So she did have a couple of soups that she made. She made a Was it her that made the corn chowder? That was really good. I don't know. I don't know if I ever told you guys this, but mom did from the time I was 16 until after I left home. Mom was doing foster care and mostly taking in teenage girls. And some of those teenage girls would come in there. Thanks, Joni. Again, I really, really appreciate your kindness and generosity. That is super kind of you to do that. And oh, there's the glasses. I guess I better put that on. I'll get back to my topic here in a minute. So do. Now I match. Do. Anyway, thank you. That was very kind of you. So yeah, anyway, some of these girls would come in with, I mean, even though a lot of them came from really troubled homes, they would come in with some of their own cooking skills and teach us stuff. And I can't remember, somebody came in with the monkey bread recipe. And that one wasn't one with the cinnamon sugar. It was just a savory monkey bread. And she would make it from scratch. She would dip the pieces in butter, and oh man, it was so good. And so anybody that came in, these teenage girls that would come into the home with a specialty food that they would make, Not all of them did. There was just a few. Then they would make that. That was it. Mom would be like, "Okay, you're making this." It's like, "Woohoo!" So it was pretty neat. Oh, we're frozen? Am I still jabbering away and we're frozen? Okay. Sorry. Okay, not here. Okay. Okay, good. Thanks. You're good on my end. Okay. I didn't know if Deb, what's your problem, man? Maybe it's her. Maybe she's just frozen on her end. Okay, good. Thank you, everyone. I'll start because I didn't see the little flashy thing go on where it gives me that little yellow warning. Blah, 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 blah. I did not mention pilaf. Very good. Thank you. I remember I thought of it at one point, but I didn't get it written down. Thank you, Denise. Another great idea. So, okay. Oh, your phone. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Good. Good. At least I have to start a second stream, which by the way, I did cover everything I wanted to cover. It was just going to be short, but so if we do get cut off, I'm not going to go ahead and start a second stream because that's all I wanted to do. But I'll still, if anybody has any more ideas I've missed, I'm still going to throw them out here. So I can add them into the standalone video I create for my main channel. But I think that's so funny that Joni picked that particular little guy with the glasses. That was great. I hadn't seen that one. There's always all these things I've never seen. That was fun. So, yeah, please just keep throwing out your ideas. If nothing else, when people are watching the replay and they are able to see the chat. By the way, make sure you click on show chat, which usually doesn't even show until after the video processes. So it may not be until tomorrow that you can see it if you're watching the replay. But at any rate, yeah, I just there's a lot of these things that we, as people who are trying to be more self-sufficient, being more prepared, we don't always think about of the other uses of things. In fact, one of the videos I shot today, I'm not going to tell you what all I talked about, but the topic was about 5 food pantry or food storage staples or essentials. That video is going to be about 6 weeks out. I still have to edit it, but it was one of the ones I shot this morning. And the ones that I picked particularly because of the fact that they have more than one use. So they're great for food, but they can also be used for this, that, or the other thing. And so it's really kind of fun to try to look at what you have, what you're putting up in food storage, and realize that, okay, I can eat this if I need to, but what else can I do with this? What are some other necessary things I can do, or other types of recipes I can make, just like with these whole grains? It does not have to just be for flours that you use in cookies, breads, cakes, and so on. It can be using in their whole form, or even throwing it into a blender and making a hot cereal out of. Have you mentioned grain bowls? Super easy, and they can be tailored to nearly any cuisine or taste. So I'm assuming that's like I didn't mention it, but I'm assuming that would be like because I hadn't really heard of that, but probably similar to where I was talking about making like a side dish or something where you can mix in, vegetables, herbs, spices, and whatnot. But maybe you're talking about it more as a main dish. I'm assuming is what you mean. You could throw in meat if that's what you're talking about. It'd probably most likely be beef or elk or venison because we have all three of those. Uh, you see, yes, I've always called them grain bowls. Same thing. Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Sounds really good. You know what? I'm going to have to do something like that soon. I'm just gonna have to try it. I was like this thought just came to me yesterday, or was it 2 days ago? And I started writing down ideas, and I'm like, oh, surely there's got to be even more ideas. And I'm like, oh wow. And I did find some places that had all kinds of ideas more with recipes. So you can look up a lot of great ideas as well. But I'm thinking that I'm always using white rice for a lot of a lot of dishes. Like if I make meatballs and great with a white gravy, I'm going to serve it over white rice or things like that. But making it as like kind of like a stir fry idea where I'm going to mix in the meat and the vegetables and whatnot. Or I mean, not stir fry, but like I do with fried rice, but trying it with some whole grains just to kind of mix it up and get some uh, different flavors and stuff, I think would be fun. And yes, I did mention salads, sprinkling them on salad. So I haven't done that yet myself. That was one of the ideas I came across. I'm like, ooh, I like that idea too. Instead of croutons, you have some cooked grains that you throw on top of there, which obviously you want them cooled down, but wheat berries instead of rice is delicious. So, but yeah, I could see myself mostly using barley for that. I mean, I like a little brown rice now and then. I do like I said, the wild rice for making the stuffing, but I think it would be fun to try it with the whole grains, making some kind of stuffing out of that. So maybe the next time I cook a chicken, I don't usually do stuffing for chicken. I usually just bake a chicken unstuffed, but maybe I'll try making a little stuffing out of some barley and or the hard white wheat like I do with the wild rice and see how that turns out. My husband would poke things with his fork and mutter under his breath when I tried something different. I don't always tell Patrick when I'm trying something different. Or no, it's not that. It's usually when I'm trying something and I'm sneaking in something that he doesn't normally like, such as he doesn't like sour cream or cream cheese or, that kind of thing. But there's certain recipes like oh, what is it? What am I thinking? It's I'm kind of relating it to a Russian dish. Stroganoff. Stroganoff, you typically use sour cream in it. And so if I get in the mood for making a stroganoff, I'm put sour cream in there and I don't tell him and he doesn't notice. So a lot of times, or if he does, he doesn't say anything. He seems to like it just fine. But or things that have cream cheese in them. Like he doesn't, even though he doesn't like cream cheese, he does like the different cream cheese based dips that I make, such as the salmon dip that I usually will make that around Thanksgiving ish, around that, around in there. Uh, there's another one I do. Oh, the pumpkin dip. I don't know if he likes a pumpkin dip. I can't remember. The pumpkin dip is a sweet dip, and you use pumpkin, maple syrup, cream cheese, some spices. I have a video on this on my main channel. It's an old video, but I do have video on that and on the salmon dip. So can't you make Mike always says, "Can't you make the same things twice, the same way twice?" No, of course not. What's wrong with you? Tell Mike I said, "What's wrong with you?" You gotta keep experimenting because maybe there'll be that one time where you find something you like even better than the way you liked it before. And on top of that, it's the experimentation is also about just like with the pot pies that I was talking about the other day. It's about, well, this is what I have. Like if it's that time of year, you got a lot of stuff coming in on from the garden. You might want to use that stuff fresh. And you got a lot of zucchini coming in, you got onions, you got carrots, you got whatever, and you want to throw that in there. Maybe you've got sweet potatoes. And so you're experimenting with what's on hand, what's available to you, so that you can know if you like it in the event you got to be dependent on that because that's all you have. And that's why it's always good to mix things up. And it was like that with the pot pie. I'm like, why have I never thought to? Because, my seasoned salt has paprika in it, and I use paprika and other things, but I don't always think to use paprika. I'm like, I should throw some paprika in here. And oh, it was so good. It was just so good. It was like, why don't I use that more? And sometimes, yeah, you tell them. But yeah, it's just it's fun to experiment because you're learning something new every time you do that, learning a different way to do something. And if you hate it, well, don't do it that way again. Or sometimes I like something. Well, it's like when I made the pumpkin spice rolls, I was like, man, these really need some kind of nuts on top. But I didn't want to use almonds again. Usually I use almonds because because my favorite ones to make typically are the orange spice or the orange cinnamon rolls. And then I'll put the almonds on top, the sliced almonds, because Patrick likes almonds and he likes peanuts. Does not like walnuts or pecans. But I was thinking for pumpkin spice, you gotta have walnuts or pecans. You just gotta. So what I did was I just took the little mortar and pestle, the little maple one that he made me, and I smashed them up and sprinkled some on a couple of them for me. And yes, the walnuts were really good on there. I grabbed the walnuts because they were more handy than the pecans. It was just like I walk back into my pantry. Whichever one is the handiest, that's the one I'm going to grab. Either one. It's good. Love them both. So, want with see, oh, dump all together. Most of the time, very good. I can remember what we didn't like. Yeah, usually you're going to remember what you didn't like. What irritates me is if I don't write something down and I'm like, and I tried something new and it was really good. And then I go make that thing again and I just end up doing it kind of whatever. And I forget that really good thing I had added. That's what's irritating. Oh dear. Let's see. Did I have any other things I wanted to mention while I was in here? I didn't have to use my little doodad, but I thought I would show you guys this because I usually am showing it so quickly. Oh, I just smudged it. I found one little piece of chalk from back when I was teaching dance. I know I have more of these somewhere, but so my little thing says rain country, obviously Heidi, camera number 1 because I only have the one. Today's date, today, scene, and take 1. So I only have to change the take 1, this part, if I end up having to do take 2, and I usually don't remember. But it was it's just kind of fun. I'm like, ooh, I was looking for something else, and I saw that. It was when I was looking for this, and and I saw that. I'm like, oh, I got to get that too. That's going to be fun. So I have I've been having fun. I love being goofy. I love being goofy. It's a definite stress reliever. And that's, why doing these shows is funny because sometimes when I'm preparing for the shows, I'm like, and I'm thinking the day ahead about, okay, so I got to do my live shows and I got, and when I'm doing my live shows are the same days I have to shoot my other videos because it's the only 2 days I have in the week that are really good for doing that because I know for certain I'm not going to have any grandbabies. Well, even that's not always certain, but most likely, right? So when I'm thinking the day ahead about, oh, so I got to do that and I got to do that, oh no, maybe I won't do a live show tomorrow. I don't know. I feel so exhausted. But then I'm like, well, that's dumb because every time you come in here and do a live show, you have so much fun and you get energized and you feel good and you enjoy the visiting with people. It's not just talking to an empty camera. It's talking to a camera with people live behind it and talking to you in chat. I love it. I love it. Life is too short to not have fun. No kidding. You know, I mean, I realize there's all kinds of different personality styles. And unfortunately, that's the other thing too about like a lot of my videos. You typically don't get to see my goofy side because I'm it's just going to come out more naturally when I'm live, when I'm with you either in person or like this. And a lot of people don't get to see this is just typically how I am. Unless, of course, I got a lot of really serious stuff on my mind, but, Patrick and I are watching some YouTube videos or movies or something, and I've always got some smarty pants thing to say, and then we get to giggling, and then usually he says something rather hilarious, and that's just the way we are. We tease each other, we have fun, and if you can't do that, then, you know, it's like This line is actually from a movie. It's not like one of my favorite movies. My kids like it, and years ago when they were teenagers, oh mom, you got to watch this movie, and it was kind of funny. It wasn't called Rat Race. Well, there's this part. It's got John Cleese in it and a few others, but anyway, there's this part where he introduces his like I don't know what he was called, not secretary, but anyway, the guy that does all the work for him, and the guy's totally straight face, never smiles, never laughs. He's very just monotone. And so when he introduces him, he says, and this is so and so who was tragically born without a sense of humor. And I latched onto that line and I'm like, that's perfect. I know way too many people, especially on social media, that were tragically born without a sense of humor. Some people just don't get jokes. Though I will say, anything written in text, it can be hard to tell if someone's joking or they're serious or they're insulting you just to be mean or they're just having fun with you. Unfortunately, it's too hard to tell. Now, if it's someone you know really well, obviously you're going to know if they're kidding around. But that can make things a little touchy. Because I've joked around like in comments and stuff, and there's some people I'm like, I don't know if this person knows me well enough to know if I'm joking. Should I say that or not? I just want to have fun. Trish is another one. I haven't given her a hard time in a long time. She never makes it into the live shows, but she'll be like, come into one of Patrick's videos and be like, well, I don't know that I'll ever need to do this. And usually it's something about like doing something with a backhoe or whatever. I'm like, come on, Trish, you're going to get out there and do that tomorrow, right? You needed this information. Oh, Lucy, I totally agree. Yes, you got to have a sense of humor. How do you roll with the punches in life if you can't sit back and laugh about something? I mean, I remember when I was a kid thinking, before I really had to go to my first real funeral or anything like that, especially of someone that was close to me. So when my grandfather died, and I just thought the whole thing was going to be so sad. Like, that we're just supposed to sit around and be sad and cry and depressed. But then I realized, no, it doesn't have to be that way. Even in the most sad, tragic events in life, we can learn to laugh at and find the joy in things like the time you had with that person. I'm getting all emotional. How silly. But the time you had with that person and the fun things, like my grandfather was just so hilarious. He was so funny and fun. And you can get together and talk about this stuff and laugh and enjoy that time. It doesn't have to be all about the horror. And we can do that now, no matter how hard life gets. And I think that if we can't do that, it's going to make dealing with those rough patches so much harder. And I know if I don't have some comedy relief, I think I'd just lose my brains. Just be going all over the place. So life's too short. Wear the crazy socks. There you go. I don't have any crazy socks, but I have other crazy things, like the glasses I just put on. My eyes are all watery. So, but I have my crazy, other stuff too. And I do have a few crazy shirts. Maybe I'll wear now and then, but yeah, you know, or or pull out that fine china you keep saving for company or saving for a fancy dinner that you never end up doing. You know, pull out that fine china. So I don't even use fine china anymore. It's like pointless. So, in fact, I think I gave mine away. I did. I don't use it. I don't have a use for it. I want something that I like that's cool and I'm going to use that and I like the way it looks whether it be a fancy dinner or just a regular dinner or whatever. So a cheerful heart is good medicine. Absolutely. That's what scripture tells us. So, and then we always have the joy of the Lord even through the hardest circumstances. How many chickens do you have? Now, I'm assuming this is Dusty. Now, I saw you say you would behave this time. Was that you that made that comment the other day? I don't remember. But you know what? I was actually fine with it. I just try to be a little more careful, So anyway, I currently have 14, but we have one that we're probably going to be taking out this week. She's not even that old, and I was going to make soup out of her, but I think she has some kind of serious infection. Initially, I was gonna take her out at the end of March anyway if she didn't start laying because there's something wrong. I mean, generally, she seems like an okay bird, but she from the moment she started laying, she was very, very sporadic. She was the one that gave me my first olive egg. Yes, I'd be good. Anyway, but she would, like, lay every 2 to 3 days, and then she'd quit for a few weeks, and then she'd start again, and then she quit and has never started laying since. And that was either late spring or early summer. And she hasn't started laying yet. And as young as she is, she should have started laying by now, this time of year. All my other young chickens are. The only other chickens I have that are not laying, besides the rooster, of course, are my 3 old buff Orpingtons. But I noticed last year they did start laying, but it took them a lot longer. And I think it's because they're older. So we'll see. I'm hoping they will start laying. Their combs are getting bigger and redder. And I noticed Kicking Bird kinda hanging out, on the roost yesterday, right in front of kept looking in the nesting boxes. Oh, no, Claire was doing that too, like they're thinking they're gonna start laying. But anyway, Roxy, the one we're thinking of taking out, I noticed that she was starting to waddle and act a little weird, and she kept acting like she had to poop or lay an egg, but then would go sit in the nesting box all day and nothing come out, and I'm like, I doubt she's egg bound because she hasn't been laying anything. So, but I noticed that she looked really swollen. Her whole abdomen was very swollen and red. So I grabbed her, I put on some rubber gloves and grabbed her and checked her 3 different times. First, I had to put her in a warm soak because her vent was a little crusted over, but it was also really tight because she's so swollen. So I put her in a warm bath and let her soak for a little bit and then checked 3 times just to make sure, and there's no egg in there. She's not egg bound. Um, but she's very swollen. It makes me think of an infection. And part of me is like, we should just take her out now because she still hasn't started laying, even though I was going to wait till the end of March. Um, but she got sick a couple other times. So she's just not the healthiest bird anyway. And as much you got to do what you got to do, especially when you have limited space and you don't want to keep feeding birds that are not going to be giving back. It's still hard, but now it's like to the point where it's like, if it looks to me like it must hurt and it would actually be doing her a favor. But if she's sitting in that, so what I use is I use my foot bath, I fill that up with warm water and then put it in my big sink. And then I put the chicken when I gotta soak them for whatever reason and put them in there, and they usually love that and are really calm. They love that nice warm water, and she's looking at me, and she's kinda looking at me like this, and it just makes me feel bad, but it's almost like she knows that I'm trying to help her, but I'm looking at her thinking, we're probably just gonna have to take you out and not eat you because we don't know what's wrong with you. So, how do you keep the hawks? Well, where we're at, Brenda, because all my chickens are in my backyard and everything, we've had a couple of big birds sort of fly overhead and I've seen one light off walking outside from the fence, but the way everything is so closed in, there's not a whole lot of room for a hawk with a wingspan like that to fly down and get the chickens. It's just a lot harder. They're very, very unlikely to do that. And now I also have Antonio because if he sees an eagle or anything up in the sky, he's looking and he's making sure everybody knows. And that's one thing I really like about having a rooster and he's a good rooster when it comes to that. They know what to do. They're watching, and the hens know there's a certain sound that the rooster makes, and the hens will go run for shelter. And there's plenty of places they can run for cover. They can go into the coop, they can go into the greenhouse. Well, at least they can still grow them to the greenhouse right now. There's a hedge right in front of our bedroom that they like, our bedroom window that they like to hang out under, especially in the summer months. But it's pretty protective. I just go kind of have to, I'm going to have to go prune it up again so that they have plenty of space under there. They like to hide under there. There's plenty of places they can go hide. But yeah, we just don't have to deal with the hawks coming in. But roosters, if you don't have a rooster, you get yourself a rooster, because not only are they going to be good at warning the hens and letting them know there's danger so that they'll run and hide. Because like I said, they recognize that there's a specific sound the rooster makes. It's different than the other sounds. They have their little code that they speak, and the hens will go hide, and a rooster will attack a hawk and a lot of times get the upper hand. That's why they have those big spurs. In fact, I've seen a couple of different videos where a hawk had come down to try to grab a hen, and a rooster come running out and just beat the tar out of that hawk, and off it went. So if you can have a rooster, I'm so glad we have one now. I kept holding off on getting a rooster because we're in a small area. So we don't have a big farm here. We have 2 other pieces of property, but where we're doing all this, the gardening, the chickens and so on, is just on a shy 1/3 acre corner lot in town. Okay, in a neighborhood. And so that's why I held off on a rooster for a while. But there are other um households around this whole neighborhood area, because there's several streets. I can hear a rooster way over there. I can hear a rooster over there. So there are people around here that do have roosters. So it's, but I did talk to my neighbors first, and that was a while back. It still took me a while to finally get a rooster, and I actually ended up with him on accident. It was supposed to be a hen that I was getting from a friend. They thought it was a female. Then he started crowing one day. I was getting suspicious because I'm like, that chicken is getting much bigger than the other chickens. His calm's getting quite big too, or hers. Because I initially had named Antonio. I had named him Adelaide. Well, I changed his name to Antonio. Because then one day he started crowing. But I'm really glad I have him. He's a beautiful rooster. He takes good care of his girls. And here's another good thing about him that I've noticed that I know isn't the case for all roosters. He will not try to mate with a hen that is not laying. He knows. So he's leaving the old hens alone right now. They're not laying. And he left any of the hens that were, molting, not laying, he leaves them alone. And I love that. Now I know that's not the case for all roosters, because I was looking this up online. I'm like, do roosters know, like, when a hen is molting and not laying and they leave them alone? And it was like, there's that backyard chickens message board thing. And a lot of people are saying, no, they don't care. They don't care. And I'm like, well, Antonio seems to. He seems to have a little bit of respect for his ladies. And he knows when they're laying and when they're not. So, I assume they wouldn't mate with them when they're not laying anyway, because it's like, well, you're not going to make babies if they're not laying. And maybe the hen puts off some kind of hormone that the rooster would know. Okay, that means they're laying. So I don't know about that part. It makes me wonder. But yeah, I love that about Antonio. He's very respectful and good to his ladies. He takes care of them. Though I still got one of them is getting a bald patch, so I'm going to have to go put one of the little dress things on her, one of the denim ones I have, to protect her back, because I know she's got a decent sized bare patch. He doesn't seem like he's as rough as he was, like doesn't make him as bald as he once did, but still, it's going to happen, especially if there's not as many to mate with. The favorite ones always get the worst of it. It was funny. I saw him chasing somebody around yesterday morning as soon as I let them out. And I'm like, that's definitely one of his favorites, because it was. Oh, but he's so beautiful. I love him. I just wish he was more cuddly. He won't. Every time he'll let me get kind of close to him, but then when I reach out to him, he's like, burp, 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 burp. No, you don't. And he's big. So when I do get a hold of him, he's like this. He's actually quite big. But he's never tried to attack me at all. And sometimes I'll go in the coop at night and I'll rub his comb and his wattles, and he just lets me do it. I think he likes it. He better like it. Huge buzzers. Ew. Ew. Anyway, so how long have I been going? Almost an hour. That's not bad. I always think it's great if I can actually be on here an hour and not get cut off before, I finish, or, before I'm ready to get done. So I got my first video, my this and that video for Monday, just about done editing that. I just got probably about 10, 15 more minutes of work to do on that, get that uploaded. And then I'm going to start editing my second video that I shot this morning. And I won't be able to edit this one until tomorrow because it will take until tomorrow morning before it's ready to download. Well, now Mr. Rain comes in. A little late. I'm just getting ready to close up here. And now he comes in. Man, I don't know what to do with you, Mr. Rain. Patrick. But we got to stay on a little longer now because Patrick's here for everybody to give a hard time to. Or vice versa. Or me with a skillet. Pull out the skillet. I don't have a skillet handy here, but there's a goodbye. See, where's the skillet? Let's see here. Gotta find the skillet. It's the cooking. There it is. 2 of them even. With the eggs in them even. There we go. There we go. Leave the skillet alone. Well, Patrick, did you ever get your cookies? He did, Tammy. He's also had quite a bit of lots of cinnamon. I didn't make any cinnamon rolls this week, but he had like 4 weeks in a row. Was it 4? Where I was making cinnamon rolls. Because I made my standard cinnamon rolls with my standard ones are the orange cinnamon rolls with the almonds. And then I decided to try something new and did the apple cinnamon rolls. And then I'm like, oh, I still want to experiment. So then I did the pumpkin spice rolls the next week. So just one a week. And then last week I did the chocolate peanut butter rolls. Yeah, he's been pretty spoiled lately. So don't feel sorry for him. Don't feel sorry for Mr. Rain. He's been quite spoiled. What cookies? What about the cinnamon rolls? Huh? What about those? Smarty pants. See what I do. Was it yesterday or no, the day before? I had pulled out. I was talking about this, I think, on Sunday. So I pulled out some turkey I'd frozen. And I used half of it to make a turkey a la king over rice. And was initially going to dehydrate the rest of it since it had already been cooked and frozen. And then I changed my mind and decided, I think turkey salad sandwich spread sounds really good. So instead of making cinnamon rolls again, I just made regular loaf bread. Boy, that sounds good too, because I have a lot of that left over. Croissants and crescent rolls and cinnamon rolls. Because he also has his crescent rolls, butter crescent rolls. There's croissant. I don't make those. My daughter-in-law makes them, and she makes the best ones I've ever had. I make butter crescent rolls, which are a little different. But yeah, just a yeast bread. Roll it out into a circle and cut it into triangles and butter it really good and roll them up and butter them some more and bake them. Well, let them rise again and then bake them. I don't know what I'm going to do with Mr. Rain. Anyway, people, I should get off here so I can go do the dishes and finish editing my video. And I got to get back to my sister too. We were talking earlier. So, and something else I'm supposed to be doing that I'm not thinking of at the moment. I dream about stuff like that. You know what, people? What I need to do is I need to get off here so I can go get the real skillet so I can use it on his real head. So next time you see him, he might have a dent, just so you know. A dent in his head. Anyway, I hope you all have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your week, and we'll probably see you live again on Sunday unless something happens. But typically try to do 2 live shows on Sunday, one from each channel. Anyway, love y'all. Take care and God bless. See ya.